I always start the same way. Hello, and welcome to Talking with Famous People, since apparently we're going to be publishing. Um, I always start the same way. Can you tell me how many typing sessions you watched before?
I've literally only watched my friend's one, and I didn't even finish his because I don't know.
Okay,
Couldn't
cool.
face
So, do you know, do you have any familiarity with typology, MBTI stuff?
My friend sent me the link to, I guess, your book, and he told me to read some of the pages, but not really, to be honest, with that.
Okay, cool. So, let's start here. Can you provide me with some different reasons why somebody might want to join the Navy?
Um, Depending on their educational background, I think the Navy could provide a stable career that's easy to get in, and it could be their family history. Their fathers could have been in the army, in the navy. Um, they're patriotic. I think those three are the main reasons from my perspective. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So, if you were going to be, if somebody tasked you with advocating in favor of the United States invading Canada, and you have 1 minute to give a speech, and you're on the floor of the legislature or something, and you're advocating, yes, we should declare war. The United States should declare war on Canada and invade them. Give me a summation of your arguments.
Canada has a lot of resources, and we could use that
Okay.
in one sentence. Yeah, and
Okay.
it will be very actually depending on their supporting allies. It will be very easy for the US to invade Canada, or US to invade most countries. To be fair, but yeah, that's probably based on the logical,
Okay.
straightforward reason.
So you think that they will, if you were going to present logical reasons, those would be the best possible reasons. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying? Okay.
yeah, not talking about morality or anything.
Okay. So let's say, what would be a reason somebody might present that you think would qualify as a less logical reason?
The less logical reason,
Yeah.
um, it might incite a world war, which is very likely, which is not desirable at all.
Oh, so you mean somebody might provide the justification that no, we should do it because it'll start a world war? I'm saying,
Um,
what's a reason someone might give, but it be less logical than resource acquisition or lack of defensive capability?
so what do you mean by that?
Well, the reasons you gave me were
Yeah.
we can acquire resources, the U.S. can acquire resources, and or that Canada didn't really have the ability to fight back very much.
Hmm.
So I'm saying, and you indicated that those were as not that there necessarily are a lot of good reasons to invade Canada, but as far as reasons to invade Canada go, those would at least be sort of logical. And
Yeah.
I'm saying, now give me examples of reasons that people might give that that would qualify as less logical.
Uh, um, can they don't like Canadian people? I guess
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
All right. Cool. So, do you think that by and large people behave, make decisions on resource acquisition metrics or on whether they like, yeah, metrics?
I think general consensus agree that a logical approach is better. I guess.
Okay, but do you think people actually, whether they whether it whether there's consensus or not about a logical approach being preferable, do you think people apply a logical approach in general more often or less often?
Yes.
You think they
Yes.
do?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Rachel, can you for 1 second? Can I talk to you for a second?
Sure.
Could you possibly cut that?
Yes, I want to. I don't know where the large
You
I'll go
just look in the
inside.
drawer.
It wasn't in there.
You want to use my Yeah,
Oh, that
yeah.
will.
Use the
Yeah.
one up there on my wall. That one's good. The Spyderco one. All right, sorry.
Oh,
Okay, so what like if you think that if you were to describe ways like everybody's got their thoughts about the world this the world's going right in these areas and the world's going wrong in these areas. What do you think when the world's going wrong? You're gonna need a fork, Rachel, to hold it in place while you cut. In what ways do you think that the world is going wrong? Like, how? What would you attribute that to?
I think compared to, let's say, I don't know, 50, 100 years ago, the world's doing pretty well, like regardless of like whatever small minor things going on, protests, whatever. As for what's going wrong, I think like it depends on whoever's like the political leaders at the time. And I think social media really affects how people are doing and how people think. Also, what's the question? The question is like, what I think is wrong with the world.
Sure, you're like if you were trying to sum up when the world makes a boneheaded move, in other words, when society in general takes a wrong turn, what wrong frame of reference is that wrong turn predicated on?
I think I feel like social media influence maybe like how we think.
But I mean, who's responsible for social? Like, who's responsible for social media exactly?
It could be anyone, honestly. It could be influencers, political leaders, like literally anyone of great influence, and it kind of strays away and leads to a particular path how people think, or at least some people think, and then that could lead to a bigger population.
So, do you think that the democratization of, I guess, published opinion, has a net negative impact on civilization?
It can have a negative impact. If you're talking about negative, it can have a negative impact. Yeah, it can.
No, I'm asking you if it has, on balance, a net negative impact on public discourse or a net negative positive impact.
I'll say positive still, even at the moment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? Can you tell me your time zone?
I'm in Sydney at the moment. Right now it's 12 p.m.
You're in Australia.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but some people refer to Australia as down under.
Geographically speaking.
So, okay, so what day is it today for you?
Wednesday.
So right now it's Wednesday for you. It's still Tuesday for me. Okay.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what you did on Tuesday in terms of a sequence of inconsequential details? If you'd like me to demonstrate it, let me sort of demonstrate it first.
Sure.
So yesterday for me, which was Monday, yesterday for me, which was Monday, when I got up in the morning, it was with a great sense of, oh no, because it was 7 a.m. and I had a 6 a.m. typing, and I guess I had slept through my alarm. And so I rushed out here, and I was like, oh shit, I'm going to have to talk to this guy. And so I try to go to the calendar, I find his email, I'm about to email him, and then I see, I just get an email right then. It says, are you coming or what? Except I'm like a full hour late at this point. So this is an unusual amount of patience for somebody, right? So I quickly went in there, and then I had the session, and it was fine. And I apologized, obviously, I don't normally screw up like that, but not with things like this. Yeah, certain things I do, but that's unusual. Anyway, after the typing session, then I went back to bed for a little while, and then the gardeners came, and they were really loud with their leaf blower. I think I got up again. All right, so can you do the equivalent succession of inconsequential nonsense for your day yesterday?
How much, like as much detail as what you just provided, or like as much detail as I want to?
As much detail as you can.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Let's go. So yesterday, from the time I woke up, so I woke up about 11 a.m. due to my alarm clock that I set up. Otherwise, I would literally sleep the whole day. So I woke up, and the first thing I do is look at my phone and check on the. So right now I'm investing in stocks at the moment. So I check that, analyze the graphs a little bit, check my messages. I think I text my girlfriend because she's at work, see how she's doing, and then I got out of bed, washed my face, shaved my whatever mustache I have or hair, and then brushed my teeth.
Okay, cool.
Just keep going. Just go.
So,
Yeah.
can you tell me about a time you learned a lesson from a specific event where you frequently find yourself remembering that lesson?
Yeah, it's heaps of times like that, I guess. Do you want to give like example?
Yeah, a specific example.
Just like most recent greed in terms of stock investing. I want to earn more, but it ends up going down and I lose the money. That's kind of a direct lesson, I guess.
What lesson did you learn?
Sorry?
So what was the takeaway? What lesson did you learn?
Don't be greedy. Kind of to simplify it.
Okay, so do you think that because you lost money you necessarily made a mistake, or are those separate calculations and you're affirming that you did make a mistake and you lost money?
I mean, the mistake is my way of thinking, which is due to greed. So in that,
Which is what? Say it again.
due to greed,
Tricky grid?
due to greed.
Oh, due to greed.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you an example of what kind of learned lesson I'd like you to give me an example of. It would be, I remember one time, this is what I usually pray. I remember when I was a teenager, one time I put my bowl in the sink and it had cereal and a little bit of milk in the bottom, and didn't rinse it out. And my dad was like, I guess I'd done it a couple times and he hadn't said something. He kind of just like snapped and really laid into me about how awful that was and how inconsiderate, because of the way cereal sticks to the side of the bowl if you don't rinse it. Mm-hmm. It makes it really hard to get off when you're cleaning it. And ever since then, I've remembered, okay, it's cereal, so you have to at least fully rinse off all the cereal and the milk before you put it in the sink.
Right. In that case, I have almost exactly the same one. So it's literally exactly the same, almost. So I do the same thing with my protein shakes, and they use milk as well. No one really told me. I mean, I learned from experience. My girlfriend told me to wash straight away, but I didn't. And then I'm a really lazy person, and it ended up being there for like a week, and the milk expired, and it smelled extremely bad, like terrible, like fermented milk. Like if you're familiar with that. So now I literally wash not only just milk containing dishes, but everything else straight away.
Okay. So now I'm going to give you an example when I used my particularist kind of knowing, but I should have used a more universalist kind of knowing, you might say. Or you could describe this in different ways. You could say, I used what I already knew when I should have used what I was observing right now, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I'll give you an example, and then I would like you to try to give me a comparable example. So one time I was driving, I got in the car, and I was going to pick up this guy from this place. And before I got in the car, I had a Post-it note, and it had on the name of the place I was going to get him. It was like a government building someplace. And I put it on the dashboard of my car. When I was driving down the street, and this often happens with me, as I got, I don't know, a mile away from the house or something, I said, where am I going again? And then I proceeded to reach back in my memory, trace back to, okay, when I left the house, I was on the computer, and then I saw, oh, that's right, I'm going to that place. And then I looked in front of me, and it was like, duh, it's right in front of me on the dashboard. I posted it there so I could look at it, right? So this is an example of me using a memory when I should have used observation. Do you have a comparable example?
For my own, okay. Oh, man. Okay. I don't know if I've experienced like that. I'm just trying to give a similar thing. Mhm. So you have to use something where I don't know. I don't know. I can't think of many experiences like that.
Okay, let me shift gears. What value do you think it's more reasonable for other people to expect you to uphold all the time? Okay. Do you think it's more reasonable for other people to expect you to uphold the value of honesty or the value of kindness all the time when they conflict? You know.
Honesty.
Okay.
Mm.
I think it's more reasonable for them to expect of you to follow through on what you say you're going to do, or to follow through, or to affirmatively do things to help when the need arises, assuming you can only have one or the other.
What was the first option again?
Follow through on what you said you were going to do.
The first one.
Okay.
Mm.
What makes you more angry at yourself? When you stub your toe, or when you forget to get that loaf of bread you were planning on getting on the way home?
Definitely forget.
Okay. What makes you more mad at yourself? When you accidentally hurt someone's feelings, or when you make some sort of joke and no one laughs and you feel awkward?
I don't think I care about either, but if I had to choose the first one.
Okay. In a significant other, you mentioned you have a girlfriend, yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
so I want you to now imagine you are single, and we're talking about prospective girlfriend, and so you've somehow gotten access to God's dating service. In God's dating service, you simply check off the boxes you want, and that's the woman you get right away. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So, would you rather that the woman provide you, like, food without you asking for it, like keep track of whether you need to bring a sweater, or like don't forget to wear your comfortable shoes because you're like that kind of stuff? Or would you rather have a significant other who suggests fun things and gets you out of the house, like, oh, come on, let's go to the carnival?
Definitely too. I think I can do the first one by myself.
Or you do the first one by yourself, so you say the second one. Okay. Do you feel as though you're missing out sometimes because if you just stay at home and like relax?
I mean, I do a bit of both, depending on how I feel on the day or how tired I feel, etc.
Okay. If you won a prize that allowed you to spend $100,000 of the prize issuer's money on entertaining yourself. Now, you can't purchase anything that is going to retain or increase in value. You can purchase as many consumables as you want. If you do purchase those things that have value, you have to return them at the end. You don't get to keep them.
Yep.
Okay.
So what I do?
So yeah, what do you do?
I'll go on a holiday and buy a lot of food.
Okay, where would you like to go on holiday to?
So how long do I have to spend that?
Well, you have $100,000 for a 2-week all expense paid whatever you want.
I would go to all the countries that I want to go: Japan, Korea, New York. I'll easily spend that money on.
So you'd rather go to like Japan, Korea, a few different countries, and get a medium-sized chunk of each of those, or a few days in each of them, or whatever, than have a deep dive into one of them?
I think 100,000 is enough for a deep dive into all of them.
I mean, but you only got 2 weeks, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100,000 is quite a lot still, I think, from my perspective.
Did you already eat?
Yeah, we got tri-tip right here.
Okay, because I got you some mashed potatoes, 5 minutes in the micro, and it's
Okay, thank you.
it's in the fridge.
Okay, thanks a lot. Sorry about this.
Okay, sounds pretty good.
Charlie, you are getting the most interrupted typing session
That's all right.
anybody ever gets. Normally, I try to keep the environment kind of chill. Okay, so talk to me about how do you define? Do you think truth is created or discovered?
Both, depending on what you're talking about. You're talking about like objective truth. It will be like dinosaurs exist, or if you're talking about more like truth in terms of morality, which is a little bit subjective, but this people is defined as like honesty is good.
Okay, well, I asked you about discovered or created, and you switched to objective and subjective. Which of those two do you think is objective and which is subjective?
So like I'm sorry, in terms of what? In terms
Well,
of
okay,
truth.
so I asked you, is truth discovered or created? And then
Yeah.
as you talked it out, you
I'll say
switched
both.
you switched to objective and subjective, right?
Right, yeah.
So it sounded like you were saying like, okay, well, Mia is objective, so I'll just call it. So, like, which one is discovered more objective or is created more objective?
Created, obviously, more subjective.
Okay, so can you give me an example of a created truth and an example of a discovered truth?
Oh yeah, so like I was saying, discovered truth, truth in general, like dinosaurs existed. Okay, do you know what? That's also subjective on some people, but like scientifically speaking, that is objectively truth, and subjective truth will be the how general social perspective on truth, like honesty is good or like something is good, like
So the
being
statement
kind.
honesty is good is less
Yeah.
objectively true than
Yeah.
there were dinosaurs.
Yes,
Okay.
because it's scientifically. Yeah.
I'm going to say a long sentence now, and I'd like you to express it in a very concise version. Okay?
Okay.
So here's the long sentence. A person, being a member of a community, should, when occasions arise that they can take independent action that will benefit a large number of people within that community, regardless of whether there's a technical obligation to do so, ought to take proactive action to better their community and in that way justify their membership within the community that by being responsible for some of its well-being and upkeep.
So you want me to summarize that?
Yeah, I want you to say that sentence like bam, 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 bam.
In order to benefit a greater community, a single person should make sacrifices to help a bigger community.
Okay, not too bad. I'm going to ask you some introvert thinking questions now. If some aardvarks eat ants, and some things that eat ants are anteaters, can we necessarily conclude that some aardvarks are anteaters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds
The answer to that is no, we can't. But I don't. It's like I never quite know whether to tell people whether they get the TI answers right or not, because it's like I sort of go, okay, and then they assume they got it right. But anyway, okay, I'll proceed forward. If only people from Iceland like iceberg lettuce, and I like iceberg lettuce, am I necessarily from Iceland?
And people are like some from us nice way, and you're like, no. Wait, so only people from Iceland like whatever something lettuce?
Yeah, iceberg lettuce, and I like iceberg lettuce. Am I
Oh,
necessarily?
then yeah, you're from Iceland, yeah.
Okay.
Because you said that.
If A or B, then C, and not C, what can we conclude?
If A and B, not
If
C.
A or B,
Yeah.
if A or B, in other words,
Yeah.
if I have a ball or a shawl, then C. Then I have a pig. And not C. I don't have a pig. What can we conclude?
Sorry, I did not understand that.
Okay, let me put it this way. If I have a crinkle, then, I'm sorry, let me start again. If I have either a crinkle or a pickle, then I have a thumbtack. And I don't have a thumbtack, what can we conclude?
You do not have the first thing or the second thing. I forgot what you said.
Yeah, correct. Okay. All right. So, can you break down the task of smelling a baby into exactly 4 steps?
Smelling a baby.
Yes, you've been assigned a task. You're taking on a temporary gig job. It's really well paying, and you ask your supervisor, "What do I need to do?" And he says, "You need to explain to that person how to smell a baby in exactly 4 steps."
Okay, how to smell a baby? Just like simply smell.
How to smell a baby in 4 steps? Yeah, you're explaining to somebody whose job it is to smell a baby.
Okay, all right. It has to be at least 4 steps.
It has to be exactly 4 steps.
Exactly 4 steps. All right, cool. You approach the baby. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
You move your head towards the baby. Wow, I can't. 4 steps. That's actually okay. You initiate the act of inhaling through your nose. And 4 is you get slowly closer until you can detect the baby's smell through your nose.
Well, I see. I would think a 4-step plan to smelling a baby would be: step 1, inform the parent that you're going to be smelling their baby.
I don't care about that. No, I don't care about that.
Step 2, override their objections.
Okay.
Step 3, dart in quickly with your nose towards the buggy. And step 4, sniff as hard as you can.
Okay. All right. So I skipped the prevention part because I didn't think that was necessary. Yeah.
Understandably, I didn't set up the scenario so that you would expect that there was going to be an issue potentially with you smelling.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Have you ever heard? Did I ask your friend? I guess the troll question.
No.
All right. So this is a kind of like a role playing story question. Okay. I'm going to describe the scenario. Your role in this story is you are the mayor / lord. Okay, it's the Middle Ages times, so you got only medieval technology. Okay, now here's the situation: your city is going along fine until one day there's a big storm and it washes out your bridge. Your city is split in 2 by a river. On the left side of the river, you've got your farms and your silos and your foodstuffs and agricultural things. On the right side of the river, you got your townspeople, your craftsmen, your merchants, and so forth. And historically, you've always moved food across the river over this bridge. Since the bridge is washed out, though, a river troll has come and taken up residence in your river. And he has a magical power. You cannot stop him from doing this. This is his magical power. And what it is anytime a boat crosses the river with food on it, he can sense that the boat has food on it, and he will run up lightning fast and steal 10% of it and take it away. You won't even be able to see it. It's so fast. And even if you got it in a locked box or anything, it's his power, so he can get that. So the problem here is you weren't really paying that much attention this past summer, and you only have just enough food saved up for this winter, just barely. So if he takes 10% of every shipment across the river, you're going to find yourself with some starving citizens, and they are armed with pitchforks. So you're thinking, I better solve this problem right now before the bulk of the winter starts. I know I'm not going to be able to rebuild this bridge until spring, but I gotta have to do something about this. So solve the troll problem for me, Mayor.
Kill the troll. Okay, can I kill the troll?
You can try to kill the troll.
Is that possible? Is that an option?
So okay, would you like to talk to your military advisor?
Yeah, I would. I don't fully understand from the.
Hello, Mayor. I'm your military advisor, and we've done the assessment of the troll like you've asked, And I can tell you he's 12 feet tall. He's got spiny, thick, leathery kind of skin. But the biggest problem as far as trying to get to him is he's in the middle of a fairly wide river here. And he's kind of hanging out by that rock in the middle of the river, But we tried shooting arrows, and it's like they just bounce off his skin because we can barely reach him, And I was thinking maybe we could float down the river in boats with lances, but he'd probably just knock over our boats and...
Essentially, we can't kill the troll. All right.
Well, I as your military advisor, I'm all out of ideas, but...
Okay, so we can't kill the troll. All right, and then so with that 90% of food that we get each time, because they take 10%, that is not sufficient for the citizens to live, basically, or all of them at least.
Right, you're going to probably lose 5% of your population to starvation, and the other 5% will be like have a rough coming back from malnutrition-y thing, or everybody will be sort of malnutrition-y, and you'll just lose a few people to starvation, but you're not going to let yourself be malnutrition-y probably.
Of course. Oh, okay. Can we move the citizens to the island with food in it, or is that not enough?
Yes. Now that's actually the technically the answer. It's not an island; it's just the other side of the river. But move the people, not the food, is what I consider to be the best answer. It's not an answer many people come up with. You can kill the troll, but you just didn't try very hard. And
that's totally fine.
Just because your military advisor can't come up with a way to kill the troll doesn't mean you can't come up with a way to kill the troll.
I'm not in the military. I probably wouldn't know.
Okay. Moving people without food works fine. There's plenty of other solutions, but one of the things I'm looking for when I'm asking that question is the kill the troll answer. So it's like kill the troll tells me certain things. Some people won't kill the troll no matter how ridiculously you skew it in favor of them killing the troll.
Mm-hmm.
Because but it's a troll. I mean, if it's smart enough to take food, then it's a living creature and it's intelligent and
do not care. Override humans' importance. Yeah.
And people can be really surprisingly gullible. Normally, I forgot to tell you that the troll says it's a troll tax. I usually add that detail. And a lot of people go to talk to the troll, and the troll convinces them that he's protecting the city from river sharks, and that's why he deserves his 10%. Even though that's patently absurd because they never had a river shark problem before.
It's a lie.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's interesting how people deal with the question. Okay. So let me get your take on personality in general. Do you think that a given individual has essentially the same personality over the course of their life, or do you think they're continually changing and evolving?
I think everyone can change and evolve depending if they want to, and external circumstances and influence. But I do believe genetically we are born with a similar trait. With a similar trait to our parents and our own, I guess, like initial personality, and it shapes over time.
Okay. What do you think's more important? Getting the job done, or getting the job done ahead of schedule and under budget, or getting the job done above expectations in terms of quality, but on time and on budget?
Oh, of course, the second one then. I mean, you're on budget and on time, so I guess why not?
But you're ahead of time and under budget in the first example.
Like how much so, and what does that like lead to? Like what?
Okay, so it's going to be always the particulars. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that are you more likely to make sure you've checked off every single box in order to avoid schmoozing, or more likely to schmooze in order to avoid checking off all the boxes? Do you know the word schmooze?
No. Sorry.
Okay. It's funny because apparently people who don't live in America don't know that word.
No, I've never heard it in my life.
It's to be obsequious, ingratiating, like to let me Google it and see what the definition is. Schmooze. to talk with someone in a lively and friendly way, typically in order to impress or manipulate them.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, so like for example, one time I went to the DMV and I was supposed to give them back my old license plates before they gave me my new license plates, which were personalized because they say TWFP on them. But anyway, I didn't realize that the old license plates were behind the paper plates that were on there from the dealer. So I was like, and then ultimately I didn't want to have to go back home and go get them. So I just pretended to be a confused old man until she just let me have my plates.
Okay.
That would be a form of schmoozing that's not really schmoozing. That would be more like
Manipulate.
playing dumb or something. But
Okay. Right.
yeah. So are you more likely to schmooze to avoid having to do all the check all the right boxes, or more likely to check all the right boxes to avoid having to schmooze?
Depending on the benefit. I have to outweigh the potential benefit there. Like I think for yours case, depending on what you have to do, like I think playing dumb isn't that hard to do. So for to save you the trouble of going back and get it, I think it's worth it. Depending on, yeah.
All right. If you were going to be assigned to the job of team schmoozer or team box checker, and I was human resources, where would I be better to assign you?
What's the second one? Box juggler.
Box checker or schmoozer?
Box checker. Okay. Definitely box checker. Yeah.
Okay. Do you get up and go to bed at regular hours, like the same time every day, or does it vary?
Recently, it's been really bad because the US market here will be at nighttime. It's from 1:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. But before that happened, it was relatively pretty on time, about same time, wake up about same time every day. Yeah.
And what's your take on investing in crypto or NFTs?
I used to invest in crypto, but right now, I mean, since ever, it's been very volatile, and I don't fully understand it personally. So I've been doing I was just been investing on the SPX 400 with 20 times leverage. Because my friend told me.
That sounds like a recipe for a Great Depression.
Oh, it is, but except I have a stop loss set up, so I don't lose too much.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to make, let's say you have a house guest. What's going to make you more irritated at them?
Sorry, a casket?
No, a house guest.
A house guest. Okay. Yep.
I mean, maybe by the end of the visit you'll have a casket, but what's going to make you more irritated at your house guest? If they're putting demands on you staying awake later to stay up and talk with them, or if when you get up in the morning they've moved around some of your stuff.
I'll definitely be irritated with the second one more. I could stay up. Like that's not really that much of an issue for me.
Do you think that if you were to come into your home after a day of work or something, being out for 6 to 8 hours, and a sneaky burglar had come in and moved around a couple of small objects, like maybe moved a chair from like right up against the door frame to like 3 feet to the left or something, do you think you'd notice?
I think I would notice, yeah.
Okay. Do you know, can you tell me right now without looking, something that you don't get every time you go to the store, but you're going to need to get next time you go to the store because you're almost out of it?
Tissues.
Okay.
Yeah, house, yeah.
Okay, so do you have... All right, so the thing is, I'm pretty confident about your type, but let me ask a couple more questions.
Yeah.
If you go over to a friend's house and they just purchased a nice new, let's say, guitar, and you see as you're hanging out and they're talking to you and they're walking in the house and you realize it looks like it's gonna rain and they've left their guitar outside on the porch, are you going to tell them you should bring that in, it's going to rain?
Are they there with me?
Yeah. He said, oh, like you were just outside on the porch, you were hanging out, right? And he was showing you the guitar, and then you go, hey, I'm a little bit peckish, except you're Australian, so something equivalent. And
Yeah.
and he goes, "Well, come on in here, and I'll get you a fruit roll up." And so you're walking inside, and you realize at that moment it looks like it's gonna rain, and he's just left his guitar lying over there.
Oh yeah, I'll tell him that. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. And if he goes,
Good idea.
it'll be fine. Now what?
I'll probably bring it in without him, like without his consent. I don't know. I think it's a better idea. Like
Okay.
he's not gonna regret it. Like he's gonna regret it. Like no matter what. Like it's not hard to just put it in. You know what I mean? It's
Okay.
pretty smart. That's a smart idea.
Do you have children or want children?
Yeah, I don't have children, but I do in the future.
Okay.
21 at the moment, so not now.
You're only 21?
Yeah.
Do you have an idea already before you decide that it's time to have children when you'd like that to occur?
Uh, mid-20s to late 20s.
Okay. Do you have an idea of when you'd like to, quote unquote, retire?
I would like to retire as in like not work anymore at all, or
Yeah. Or, yeah, basically like say, okay, I've accumulated all the resources I'm going to need for the rest of my life, and I'm just going to expend those resources. Assume that there's enough of a sort of principle that it'll sustain itself with some slight going on much longer than the rest of my life, so I'm comfortable.
I think for me, like that way of retiring, I wouldn't like to do that no matter what age I am. Like I think even if I have like $1 billion, I'll still do something, pursue something. So by that perspective, never.
Are you more likely to have too much insurance or too little insurance?
Too little. Insurance, as in kind of insurance. Is that indica or sativa?
I think it's a hybrid. It's called Sugar Fix.
No, okay.
What was I asking?
Do I have too much insurance?
Oh, right, yeah. Like for example, if you wanted to, you could go out and buy life insurance, long-term care insurance. I don't know if you have to deal with this stuff in Australia or not. You could buy earthquake insurance, flood insurance, fire insurance.
If they exist at all, yeah.
Oh, they don't exist there. Okay. Do you ever go to casinos or do you like to gamble?
I've actually never went to one, but I would like to.
Okay. Have you ever played poker?
I have with not real money.
Do you think if you were going to gamble, you'd end up playing poker, slot machines, table games,
Definitely
something else?
something that requires more skill, like poker, instead of luck. Yeah.
All right. Can you talk to me about how school was for you in terms of like your approach to it?
Academically, socially,
Well, I mean, that question is part of the answering to your approach, I guess. Right?
okay. So I'll say everything then, I guess.
Yeah.
Academically, I was being influenced by my parents to study and be like the Asian student, and but I was pretty lazy and still I am. So I kind of like just did the least I could, but surprisingly, I did fairly well somehow. Because I think it's due to the competitive factor that in our school anyways that if you were like ranked higher, you looked better for the teachers and students, people around you. So but socially, just got along with everyone. Try to anyways.
Okay, but talk to me, I guess, about the operational specifics of your academic life. So, for example, I'd go into the class, I'd open up my planner. First thing I do, depending on the class, I'd either copy down what was on the board, or I'd get out my homework or whatever. But or you could tell me it was totally random, depending on the class. There was no protocol at all that was consistent across them.
Oh, sorry, I actually didn't clarify. Is this for uni or high school? So drastically different.
They were drastically different for you? Okay, well then please articulate how they were different.
in high school, I like even towards the in our in Australia it's called year 12, like the last year, I guess. I like even then I didn't really care much. I just got by and I did like assignments or whatever to get the marks. So I didn't really care. Like there was no planning whatsoever. Like no matter what class it was, unless it was for a test or assignment or something. But for uni, I did sort of plan what I was going to do depending on the class, and I kind of prepared for each class, if that's what you mean.
Well, okay. Were you ever a procrastinator?
Absolutely, greatest.
Okay.
Even right now.
So did you do a lot of stuff at the last minute?
All the time.
Okay. And what were you doing before you started working on the thing you were supposed to be working on?
Anything that's not studying, like it could be watching a video, watching movies, playing games, anything else other than studying that I don't mind doing as much compared to studying. Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain your feelings about the relationship between a person's utility and their worth?
I think a person's worth is mainly their utility.
Okay.
If that's
I see.
it,
Yes. Okay. So here's the situation. Let me just sort of paint the picture here before we go any further, which is I'm going to tell you your type, knowing already that you generally discount this sort of thing as hooey. Okay. And as a consequence, it's going to be difficult for me to some extent, explain to you why you should care about this type because there's, I guess, a lot of framework that I'd need to do first or something. First of all, let me also add, we're not typologically well matched for me to help you, okay? We're typologically well matched for you to help me. So keep these frames in mind when I tell you you are an ESTJ, and what that means is you are a TE Dom who's got a frame of reference where everything is about goals, outcomes, attainment, utility, and then the way you do it is you learn with your SI and you use what's worked before and you know what resources you have and how to direct them and so forth. And you are concerned about ensuring a ever more secure future by having ever more heaping piles of resources behind you to defend you against the uncertainty of something you might not anticipate.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have 10 minutes left, and you're welcome to direct the conversation however you'd like. I'm not super accustomed to typing people who aren't themselves have some knowledge or like who don't come from the typology community. But you say like you
right,
didn't,
yeah.
right? You know, you came from your friend, right?
Yeah. I actually came here to argue some of the theories that you have.
Oh, I'd be happy to argue them.
Okay. So he told me. I mean, it's just from his words. He says that your theory states that a specific type of person quite literally cannot perform some specific tasks, and I just disagree with this completely.
Well, I wish that your blind spot were one that I could more clearly demonstrate. You have the thing that you can't do. I can't give you concrete examples of your failure to prove that you can't do it because it's too abstract a thing, kind of. Or I haven't figured out how to do it yet. Okay, let's put it that way. All right. But if you were to talk to, say, an ENTJ who's got the same extroverted thinking framework you do in the dominant function, and you ask them to provide you details about their day yesterday, it will go like this. Well, you know, usually I get up, I have breakfast, and, you know, then I'm at work, and then, but what, did you have breakfast yesterday? Well, you know, usually I just grab a bagel and coffee, and did you grab a bagel and coffee yesterday? Well, generally, yesterday, did you or not? Oh, you mean specifically yesterday? I mean, who would remember that? Who would remember that? Okay? The thing is, this is how they are when I test them, and it's how they've always been.
I think so if you were to separate those two, nurture will be like how they've grown up, how they influence. I think that is because of their experiences, I guess, nurture, that they're like that. They can't do that. Like, it's from their parents' influence, how they talk throughout their lives. I think that is the prevailing factor instead of they're just born like that.
Okay, so you'd say that then right-handedness and left-handedness is sort of a freak singularity of events, right? That we don't have imprinted preferences in our way of approaching the world at all, except as we develop them over time with our experience and habits, right? That left-handedness and right-handedness, being born that way, is the exception. The rule is the other approach.
I think that's more physiological. I think that's like genetically speaking, like physical instead of a mental thing, I think.
I mean, what it is meaning that you always reflexively choose to open the door with your right hand instead of your left one.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay. So here's where I get back to the stuff I said at the disclaimers a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a video from when I was 17 years old, and I was interviewed by the high school news station, right? Mm-hmm. And they asked me then what I thought about a new law in Arcadia that they were passing, where high school students who were having a party had to tell the cops in advance they were having a party.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's funny. It's sort of like this 80s tacit acceptance of kids drinking. It was a strange thing, right? But whatever it was is I said then on the channel, the news channel for the high school, I said, well, I oppose it because it's clearly a violation of the First Amendment right to free assembly. After all, peaceful assembly, because most parties are peaceful and we have the right to peacefully assemble, and we don't have to notify somebody in advance, and therefore it should be stricken because it's unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. And then I totally forgot about this event, right? Mm. And then, like, I don't know, 30 years later, somebody shared me that clip of video on Facebook. And what struck me was, if you asked me the same question today about a comparable situation, I'd give you the same fucking answer.
I would say that your experiences have not altered that, but it could have.
I mean,
it could have, they didn't.
Okay, put it this way. Mm-hmm. There are people who use an interested calculus and people who use a disinterested calculus. What I mean by that is, if I'm watching a sports game and I'm a fan of one of the teams, my experience for that sports game is to have usually an interested calculus. So for most people anyway, they're going to tend to think the refs have a bad call when it goes against their team, and it's a good call, it goes against the other team. You know, that represents an interested calculus. And it's fine, because as a fan, it's natural to experience that event from that interested perspective. If you're a referee, on the other hand, you're supposed to use a disinterested calculus. This is to say, your feelings don't come into play at all, just be as objective as possible. Yeah. So the thing is, those TI questions I'm asking you, if only A, then B, blah, 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 those link very strongly to the capacity of an individual to remove their own interested feelings from a decision-making equation. And the reason they do is because one has to take one of two exclusive framing positions on the matter of language in general. So, in other words, either I think that words mean things, or I think that people are trying to express themselves. Mm-hmm. And because they come into conflict so often, I can't do both. I can't split the baby in half. And what I will tell you from my experience, now this is not a particularly strong argument, but it's pretty powerful when you look at the bulk of data that I'm talking about. As a school teacher, I worked with kids for years, and I've started for quite some time back now. I started asking kids, even little kids like third or fourth grade, a lot of these kind of typology questions. And what's so striking is that these blind spots that appear to be something wrong with somebody, this TI polar inability to answer those kind of logic questions at all, which displays as things like, who is my mother's sister? And they'll say, family? Okay. Now this is the thing that's crazy is I have a girl who's now in 7th grade, but I started working with her in 5th grade, and I started teaching her conditional logic. I had her typed as an ISTP. She picks it up like bam, 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 bam. I used to teach logic in high school to high school students, and what I saw was you've got some of them who it's effortless, and some of them it's impossible. If you talk about music, you got kids who are born with perfect pitch. You got kids who are born with good relative pitch that improves with practice, and you got kids who are tone deaf. Perfect pitch requires no experience to acquire, and tone deafness, no amount of experience will cure. Those are kinds of attention too. They're not accounted for in the attentional manner matrix, but it's not disputable that one's relationship with pitch is inborn, and it clearly expresses as a skill you can test, right?
Yeah.
So why would it be the case that other kinds of distinctions we can draw between kinds of attentional manners, like it is different to deliberate about something and figure it out than to already know the answer, and those do represent different frames of reference. It turns out that the reason and the ways that I'm the same guy I was when I was 17 is because of my attentional configuration represents a specific strategy towards life. I have a different fundamental strategy towards life than you do, and it comprises my dominant and second function, and yours comprises your dominant and second function.
Right.
And because of those frame differences, I probably won't be able to convince you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, like you are born a certain like with a certain particular trait, and whatever experiences that you have, obviously, even with someone else with a similar experience, they'll still be impacted differently. The only thing I disagree about is that you cannot. It seems very rigid. That theory is like you can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, you can. The thing is, you can choose to make your life worse by trying to force yourself to be something you're not and to attend in ways you don't naturally.
Of course, I agree.
So you can do that, but it's not a good idea to do that.
Okay. I can't disagree with that. That's definitely true. Okay, yeah, all right. Fair enough.
All right. So it's like, and in baseball, for example, there are switch hitters, but they're switch hitters, it's like they're specializing in a particular sliver of left-handedness or whatever, right? So people can do a certain amount of that as well. Like, I'm not naturally an extroverted thinker like you. To be an extroverted thinker means what you do is you figure out the logic of systems that have their own logic. So every system that's not language has its own logic. A refrigerator has a different logic than a microwave, right?
Okay.
And extroverted thinking says, when I encounter different kinds of problems in the world that require me to analyze the logic of the thing in front of me on its own terms, to interface with the thing in front of me to figure out the logic of it, and to incorporate the thing in front of me in terms of my goals or a larger problem-solving thing or some other utility purpose, that's extroverted thinking. And so I forgot where I was going. I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
So I got shitty fourth slot SI. Then you've got excellent second slot SI. So.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll also say this. My dad's like you, and he's got me fucking super well trained. Like, inside his house, his part of the house, if I move anything like a foot away from where it was, I'm gonna hear about it. You know, it's like I've messed with his stuff, and things are not as he left it, and he's mad about it. And at the same time, despite the fact that I spent my whole life being raised by him and my mom, both of whom were very like on top of their shit, and despite the fact that I'm able to muster up it in his environment, it's still a complete mess. You know, it's like I didn't learn a goddamn thing.
It could be. I mean, I'm still very opposite to my parents too, but I think I'm more influenced by my peers, like some other type of influence.
Really? Okay, so let me ask you this. Can I influence you to, next time I talk to you in a few months, all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I think it is important for people to just really go with their feelings and this whole like rational explanations are more objective or better or something. That was wrong with me. I now I recognize that what really matters is I booked a session there because I want to ask you, Eric, how are you feeling now? And how can I, Charlie, make you feel better? Is there any chance whatsoever of you changing who you are such that your priorities are things that are exclusive of and in conflict with the current priorities that mark your life? I mean, the specifics might change, but it's not like you're going to become a person who says, what really matters is if my poetry resonates with my heart.
I understood about like 50% of what you said.
Okay. Well, you'll be able to watch the video.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will. Wait. So what was the point? Like
the point was you're never going to be anybody but Charlie. You're not going to change your framing priorities. You're never going to start prioritizing, playing with a bunch of random ideas that don't link to previous ideas. You're always going to prioritize understanding how a given prospective action fits into the stuff you've already done and your plans going forward. So in other words, like you're never going to be receptive to other people coming in and say, hey, I've got an idea. Why don't we do this right now? You want to be the guy who always is doing that, who says, hey, I've got an idea. Let's do this.
Yeah, I get that. But I think it's because I don't want to. I think that's wrong. But like really agreed with something and was convinced. I think over time I can be swayed and heading towards that way of thinking.
You can behave as another type behaves all you want, but you can't fundamentally pay attention in a different way. And so as a consequence, it's like for people who don't try to parse things logically, I have no way of convincing them at all. Because if I try to tell them, look, you're either this or this and they're exclusive and you can't have both, they say, that's just black and white thinking. You don't know me. My experience is as a unique butterfly. The thing is, they're always like that because that's their personality type. And no matter how much they may change in their specifics of their life, they're never going to change their frame of reference on those kind of things. And the thing is, this is your blind spot, however, is what you might call frame relevance or introverted intuition, which is super hard for me to explain to you and presents one of the great challenges of typology.
Okay. All right.
All right.
That's fair enough. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. And have a great evening. And I have permission to publish this, right? So I'm going to publish it.
Yes,
I'll publish it right away. Okay. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Okay.